Appreciate you clicking on this review. I just got done watching the Willy Wonka origin movie, and with this movie entitled Just Wonka, we follow Timothée Chalamet, who plays Willy Wonka, just starting off as a simpleton trying to build up to his big chocolate factory. Along the way, he encounters the chocolate cartel that will try and stop him in his tracks. That's all pretty much. Without any spoilers, you guys, this will be a spoiler-free review. Willy Wonka. So Willy Wonka has obviously been a really famous character throughout movie history. My preferred one is the original with Gene Wilder. So much whimsy with that movie. I really like it. But some people are probably like my lady and prefer the Johnny Depp, Tim Burton one, which I could understand because it definitely has its own style and interpretation and dived a little bit deeper into Willy Wonka's lore. But with the announcement that we would get a Willy Wonka origin movie, I was like, is that something we need? Is that something that needs to be thrown out there? And the jokes were going around that it was going to be dark and gritty, just like a Joker movie. I found that all hilarious, but it wasn't until I heard Paul King was attached as director where it really started to pique my interest. As much as I enjoy the Willy Wonka movies, Paul King was really the thing that made me go, I'm gonna check it out for him, because this is the man who directed the first two Paddington movies, and those are cinematic masterpieces. If anybody was gonna be able to pull off the charm and whimsy of a Willy Wonka-like world, it was gonna be him. So that's all I was kind of really expecting, is just for this to kind of just make me feel a little funny inside, a little happy, like I just ate a gobstopper, tasty, and for the most part, yeah, it succeeded in that. Now, I do have kind of my gripes and nitpicks, but I'll get to those in a sec. Let me talk about the things I did enjoy about this movie. Paul King delivered. Yeah, it's not just with the Paddington movies. This man is gonna have a great career just making whimsical, fun, family, charming movies. Or maybe he decides to do something different, I don't know. But sticking in the same category here, this is just like a really great family movie. Willy Wonka's world has always been a little bit strange and wacky, and they play into it here, and it just makes the movie fun. I found the humor of the movie to be really appealing and wholesome. I was chuckling quite a bit throughout the film. Timothée Chalamet's portrayal of Willy Wonka, I'm not gonna lie, did take some getting used to. About like 5-10 minutes in, I was like, not too sure how I feel about this, but he finds his rhythm throughout the movie, and I really started to accept him and enjoy what he was doing with the character. The movie also definitely carried a bit of heart in there, and there's some sentimental things that happen towards the end of the film that might pull at your heartstrings. I felt like a lot of that was pulled off pretty well, and even the villains of the film, this chocolate cartel, the dynamic between them I found to be fun, and a real standout to me was Keegan-Michael Key. He plays this officer in the movie who's just like really addicted to chocolate and is taking all these payments in chocolate form, and the way he just progressively gets bigger as the movie continues on, that had me laughing. So really overall, like just as a family, entertaining, innocent little movie, it delivers. It's gonna be nice. And I feel like that's all really that's expected from the movie. Now, getting on to maybe if you're a little bit more pickier and you just maybe binge the past two Willy Wonka movies in preparation for this one, you might be a little picky with some things. Leading me to some of my negatives of the film, or things that just kind of had me scratching my head a little bit here. And again, I am fully aware I am nitpicking, being a bit of a pet peeve, but that's what film fans do. We analyze things to an exaggerated degree. I do feel like the movie maybe didn't do enough to expand out like the Wonka origin. I mean, that's what this movie was set up as to, right? It's a Willy Wonka prequel. It's going to show you his life before he got the factory and maybe everything that led him up to that moment. And I did kind of find that interesting. But the movie, I think, barely even scratches the surface of Willy Wonka's past, a lot of his upbringing, or things that make Willy Wonka who Willy Wonka is by the time we see him in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Like, even though this movie is entirely focused on his backstory, I'm prepared to say the Johnny Depp interpretation of Willy Wonka did a whole lot more in diving into a version of his backstory, like the thing with his dad being a dentist, and why Willy Wonka maybe has social issues, and like his obsession with candy and stuff like that. And in this movie, instead of like going to like the father, they do a story involving Willy Wonka's mom, which I did find very sweet and was a great emotional part of the movie. But it did feel very surface level and like it didn't dive into it that much. Same thing goes for like the Oompa Loompa stuff. Well, I really liked Hugh Grant's interpretation of this Oompa Loompa, and he was a very funny part of the movie. The CGI was something else, but I mean, that was also very surface level. It feels like it's something that's like, well, it's Willy Wonka, we have to include at least one Oompa Loompa, or mention them somehow. And I don't know, it felt slightly shoehorned in and like it just had to be part of the movie because it's Willy Wonka. And also, if I want to get even deeper into it and nitpick it a little bit, while the movie is charming, great, ends on a really nice note, and it makes you feel happy inside, there is that part of me inside who knows Willy Wonka as a character, whether it's the Johnny Depp or the Gene Wilder version, who understands, yeah, but Willy Wonka as an adult is kind of a psycho. He's kind of a weirdo, and if anything, I think he hates people. And I think that could have been something fascinating to explore, why Willy Wonka is that way and becomes a person who secludes themselves in their factory, only surrounds themselves with Oompa Loompas, eventually leading to the day where he feels like he needs to hand off the factory to somebody else, and then leading to all the shenanigans that occur, right? It's like the Willy Wonka I just saw happen here is so nice, charming, fun, sweet, gets along with people, helps out people. It's like, it's something happened though, because this is not the same Willy Wonka we eventually see from all the other stories. And I do understand that it's a different version interpretation. I think that's what makes this movie fun. That you can literally make a Willy Wonka movie every couple of years and you can change up his backstory, focusing on his mom this time, focusing on his dad, or maybe the Oompa Loompas came from here and this is how Willy Wonka met them. Like, it's almost like a superhero origin, as everybody can have their interpretation on it, which I do think is cool. But I guess since this movie was being branded as like the Willy Wonka origin story, this movie actually does very little to tap into the origin and is more just of a random fun little side quest that really has like no impact to who Willy Wonka eventually becomes, if that makes sense. And again, that's just me realizing as a film fan, I'm nitpicking, I'm having my pet peeves, but I feel like there will be diehard Willy Wonka fans that are gonna feel that exact same way, going, I enjoyed that movie, that was fun, but it's like, not much of an origin or explanation of why the guy turns into a psycho eventually. I guess what I'm saying is, I wanted Wonka to be like Joker. Just kidding. This movie was fine the way it was. So when it comes to Wonka, I'm gonna give action 3 stars. There is a bit of chase sequences in here, Wonka running from the police, trying to get away from this chocolate cartel, and those scenes are fun. Coming to the movie, I'm gonna give it 3.5 stars. I really like Paul Keaton's sense of humor. It is so innocent, whimsical. There's some slapstick stuff thrown in there as well, sight gags, and it's that dry British humor I also enjoy. It's really good. Drama in the film, I'm gonna give it 3 stars. I found the story to be pretty suitable. Fine, like I said, it's more of a side quest, a story that has no impact to who Willy Wonka later becomes, doesn't really change his outcome on how he gets his factory, why he makes his chocolate, or who he becomes in the future, but it was still an interesting story to be told that captured my attention. Horror in the movie, I'll give no stars to, which might be kind of disappointing to some people. There have been scenes in past Willy Wonka movies that are kind of terrifying to young children, and that was lacking here. And suspense in the movie, I'm gonna give it 2 stars, because it has a very family-friendly nature to it. You know there's gonna be a happy outcome, and you just see it play through. Casual fans into the Willy Wonka world, I'm gonna give it an A-. Cinephiles, I'm gonna give it a B-. And critically, I'm going to give it a B-. Overall for Wonka, I think it's a cute and family fun movie to watch in theaters. Again, that's just my opinion on the movie. Don't take my negatives or pet peeves that seriously. I'm just being honest with you on what I was thinking about how Willy Wonka grows up to be this crazy guy, and this movie didn't do much to touch upon why that is, which I think would be an interesting thing, but maybe it just wouldn't make that great of a family fun movie, right? Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.